All right, welcome in. Just sitting here. I am Joe Murray, back for week 4 of the podcast. The quarantine is now, I believe, at week 7 now. So hopefully we get some light at the end of the tunnel here, but I'm running out of TV shows. I'm watching like old reruns of sports movies, even with commercials. I saw Major League, all 3 of them with commercials, and Bull Durham last night, and The Natural, all with commercials. So I'm ready to get some real sports in my life after a good week of the NFL draft. I'll give you some thoughts on that. We got Will Brinson from CBS Sports coming up in just a second here. Just wanted to go over some of the guests that we have this week. Another great week coming up here. Will Brinson, as we mentioned, from CBS Sports. We got Christian Arcand from 98.5 The Sports up tomorrow. Adam Kaufman, he's from WBZ Radio, and also at DraftKings. Marshall Hook, 98.5 The Sports, up on Friday. Former Bruins goaltender Andrew Raycroft. We'll get his thoughts on everything happening in the NHL as well. So, without further ado, let's bring in today's guest. He is from CBS Sports. He's got the Pick Six podcast. I know people locally here in Boston hear him on 98.5 The Sports Hub with Toucher and Rich. What's going on today, Will? Thanks for joining, man.
What's up, Joe? Good to talk to you, buddy. Hope everything's well in your quarantine land.
Yeah, I'm running out of gas, I think. The TV button is like, thank God for the draft this week. And I know people shit on the draft, and you can swear there's parental advisory up there. Don't worry about it. Guys at the sports were like, oh, it's not a sporting event. Like, dude, this was 3 days of let me just live a little bit with college football that I watched and bet on all year long, and maybe try to project where some of these guys go. So, I'll just ask you off the bat, do you believe that the NFL draft is a sporting event?
Can you bet on it?
Yes, you can.
And it's a sporting event, just like Russian ping pong.
Or marbles or anything.
Yeah, marbles. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think that the draft, it's like, has become such a, we can't go out of the house, and they still held the draft with 32 teams and 32 general managers and 32 coaches in their respective Zoom settings. Yes, it's a sporting event. I mean, it does not require athletic achievement to participate in the draft. Anybody can draft, but it's certainly a sporting event.
Yep, and I lost a few bets. I had under wide receivers first round.
Ooh, yeah, me too. That was good.
I had over 4.5 trades too.
I had Andrew Thomas, first offensive lineman taken 5-1 when he was taken by the Giants. That was a good one. I lost a lot on Cole Kmet. Yeah. That was a dagger, 43.5. And the Bears are sitting there at 43 with 9 tight ends, and they take another tight. They take their 10th tight end at 43 overall. But I got it back on day 3. I had a prop that was it was first kicker off the board, field 70-1.
Wow! Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one. So I'll give props to my buddy Dan Lifshatz, who does the Over Under podcast.
Think about it, yeah.
He had Hilaire as the first running back off the board, and he had Hertz. Going to the Eagles, it was plus 15,000 to have him go to the Eagles. He didn't hit that, but he at least picked him to at least fall in that round. So I'll give him a little credit.
I had talked up Edwards Hilaire as the first running back off the board. And in fact, I swear this is true. Like, you can't prove it. But when I was doing my final mock draft, I had pulled up in our CMS and our content system. I had put Clyde Edwards Hilaire for the Chiefs at 32. And then I wussed out because Andy Reid had never taken a running back earlier in 58. I was like, this is a great fit. It's a perfect team. It makes sense at the end of the first round because they won't be picking for a while. I was like, Andy Reid's not going to take a running back in the first round. And I bailed on it. That's the thing I'm most mad about with myself for this draft.
Overall, though, I thought the draft was good. I thought there'd be some hiccups. Trey Wingo wasn't great, but I think he kind of owned it a little bit. I thought the Zoom behind the Zoom fans behind the commissioner was a little whack. Like, they couldn't find enough for the Chargers. You know what I mean? They had to just fill the gaps with the new logo in there. But I'll throw out some day one draft stuff for you, and then I kind of want to get into your story and how you ended up at CBS Sports. It's kind of what we do here, so feel free to let loose a little bit here. So Jordan Love obviously was the upset of the draft. So I like Jordan Love. At Utah State, I know he had somewhat of a down year last year. The year before, I thought he was awesome, but I was a huge Chucky Eaton fan. If you remember him, the quarterback before him.
I actually don't remember the quarterback.
Okay, yeah, he was a stud. He put up better numbers. He wasn't Jordan Love-esque, though. over at Utah State. But just the surprise is that Green Bay would just played in the NFC Championship game. Like, can you help them out with a few receivers or another tight end? And they go after a quarterback. I'll ask right off the bat: is this to motivate Aaron Rodgers? I mean, really, is this like some sort of like fucked up psychotic way to like get in his head to like be like, this is what we did with you. Now you got to get motivated a little bit.
That's what we were talking about on the podcast. We're like, you were like, is this like a deep-seated psychological attack to get Aaron Rodgers to demand a trade? Or like, I mean, like, what? Because there's no other excuse for not taking a single wide receiver in the deepest, and I don't mean the best, but deepest, objectively deepest wide receiver class in NFL draft history. And like, they didn't take one. And then the GM, Brian Gutekunst, comes out later. He's like, we really like our guys, Equinemius St. Brown, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Jay Kummerow, Alan Lazard. It's like, do you though? Do you? Because you couldn't. I will say that, like, I think when you look back at the draft, having that where they picked A.J. Dillon, I think it was like 62 or 63, whatever it was. Jordan Love at 23. Like, at the spots where they picked early, the wide receivers, the good wide receivers had come off the board. Like, there had just been wide receiver runs. But like, to me, if you're the Packers and you're going to this draft, you have to be thinking, okay, can we get help for Aaron Rodgers? And if it looks like there's going to be a run, we need to make a move up to get one of these wide receivers. I think they were sort of done in by the runs, but like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has $30+ million in dead cap space over the next 2 years if you try to cut him, unless you do a post June 1 cut. I mean, if like the thing to me is like the difference is Jordan Love. So Aaron Rodgers was taken by the Packers as a late first-round guy when Brett Favre was 35 years old. Like, the similarities, I get it. But Aaron Rodgers was in contention to be the number 1 overall pick. The 49ers went with Alex Smith. And then we had 3 running backs taken in the first round, and the first 5 picks with Cadillac and Cedric Benson and Ronnie Brown. And all these guys pushed Aaron Rodgers down in the draft, and the Packers swooped in and took an opportunity. Jordan Love was just supposed to be taken in the 20s. His over-under was like 19.5. Like, it's not like there was some crazy value at Jordan Love there. So you better be damn sure that he's going to be a first-round caliber quarterback if you want to take him there, because otherwise you are wasting the final years of Aaron Rodgers' career.
Yeah, and I just think A.J. Dillon too. I watched him here at BC. The kid really is a star.
I love A.J. Dillon. He's a monster, but he's not a 2020 running back.
It's just not. He's more of a boulder and not the greatest catching out of the backfield. He can't do it.
42 catches, Joe, in his career at BC.
I know, and I hope it works out. I don't know what LaFleur is doing. I know they were playing head games last year, but you're right. Jordan Love, I think, could have fallen. Someone maybe had traded up at the end of the first round for him or whatever. But I agree. And dude, and locally here, there are scouts out there that think Jarrett Stidham is better than Jordan Love right now. So, I guess that's good for some Patriots fans, but not maybe a good look for the Packers. Let me just throw a few other things out at you. We'll get back to Rodgers. Becton and his dad. I thought those highlights of Becton, when we first were watching it, I thought it was his dad that was getting drafted because he's bigger than him. But he's a monster, man. I couldn't believe like the size of that dude in his story. I
thought the Jets had a pretty good draft. If you're New York, we knew coming in there at 11 that they had. They needed to find an offensive lineman and a wide receiver. Like, they just had to you had to do it. And the question was going to be, do they go with Jerry Jeudy at 11 or CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, and then try to come back and get the lineman in the second round? And it worked out really well for him. I don't know if Denzel Mims is going to be awesome. Like, he has, I think Ryan Wilson described these like focus drops on our podcast. Focus drops are not good. Focus drops are bad. Like, if you're dropping balls because you're not focused on the field, that's a problem. But I think the combo of Mims and Becton for the Jets is about as good as you could do from that 11, from where they were picking in the first and second round. And look, Becton, the 3 guys that I loved in this draft class, and I said this before the combine, so this isn't like Johnny come lately, but like CeeDee Lamb was my number 3 guy behind Burrow and Chase Young. And then I Becton and Isaiah Simmons. I just thought that they were athletic freaks who were going to show up and blow up at the combine. And I believe in what they can do at the NFL level. So Becton, to me, like, I'm not surprised that Dave Gettleman took the safe tackle out of Andrew Thomas. I thought it was obvious he was going to do that. Like, he couldn't take Becton because Becton has, Becton is the aggressive pick at 4, and Thomas is the conservative pick. Especially with the weed thing. and you knew that he wasn't going to take Becton. But I think that dude's going to be like his upside is through the roof in terms of what he can be as a tackle.
Yeah, and I had Wharfs going at 4, and then he fell to Tampa Bay in the Bucs. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll just rattle off some other thoughts. Cliff Kingsbury was flexing definitely. With what Jerry's yacht was interesting.
That's the ultimate flex. But I was saying this somehow on radio this morning. When you're okay, so like we're all doing videos these days, and everybody's showing their house. But like if you're an NFL GM and you have somebody coming over to set up, like you're not doing any of this by accident. There is a multiple day process for you to set up this spot in your house where you're going to draft. Like Bill Belichick, he knows he's drafting at the kitchen table. He did that on purpose. He put his dog there. He put Nike drafting at the kitchen table on purpose. Cliff Kingsbury is setting up his palatial batch pad with his no socks and his loafers and his like beautiful outdoor setting and his huge television and just no one around. He's doing it on purpose. It's a flex. Jerry Jones on a yacht on purpose.
Very true, and he ends up getting CeeDee Lamb, which woof, you can't pass on him. Mike Vrabel's Wild House, which I knew I for years he was kind of a wild guy here. Used to talk crap to the media, whatever. But the dude taking a dump in the back, like I didn't see that until the end. Someone had to like point that out to me. But what the hell was going on at that house that night?
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to think back to like. When I have a brother who's 3 years younger than me, and when we were, good Lord, when we were 17 and I guess 14 and 17, like I can't imagine we did some of the dumbest stuff, just stupid teenager stuff, and our parents probably thought we were idiot morons. Mike Vrabel, because he's Mike Vrabel, more willing to play along with the bit. He's like, all right, look, we got 3 teenage boys who live in our house. Like 3 high school guys who can't leave the house. Sorry, they're being weird on television on purpose. I'm not going to stop them because I'm too busy drafting these guys. Like he's just like, I'm going to go along. This is hilarious.
Yeah, it's good, and I bet you the players love him. And I know last year with that whole hype week with the Patriots in the divisional round, Vrabel earned some respect from I think Patriots fans.
Yeah,
and a lot of coaches that have come from the Patriots side to move on haven't been successful. But Vrabel, a former player, moves on, kind of pulls the old Bill Belichick timeout and delay a game move on the punt. I think he's earned some respects definitely from the players. I don't know how the Tannehill contract is going to work out overall, but just what do you think about the Titans going forward here? Like the AFC's open now. Tom Brady's out of the conference now. So the Ravens, I thought, had an excellent draft, or at least they ran into some great college players, but are there any other teams you think besides at the top, Chiefs, Ravens, that maybe could come out of this draft as some sort of like contender?
I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are in a tier of their own at this point. I mean, like Baltimore you're right. Baltimore had a great draft. They crushed it. They always crush it. I mean, Eric DaCosta is. I mean, the dude spent 15 years learning under Ozzie Newsome. Okay, it's the best possible learning on the job opportunity you could possibly have, and he's showing out. And there's a reason why Eric DaCosta every year he almost even wouldn't get mentioned that much. Like people wouldn't float his name for jobs because he wasn't leaving. He was just going to take over in Baltimore, and he played it perfectly, and he's doing a great job killing it as their GM. I think Tennessee is one of those teams that can contend. Ryan Tannehill, there's going to be some regression. I think that's the concern. It's like, is there going to be regression for Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry? And that's why their first round pick is so big to me. Isaiah Wilson, who's Georgia's right tackle, and that's the important part, right? They lose Jack Conklin in free agency to the Browns. He signs a huge deal. They go and get a guy who played right tackle in a predominantly run-heavy offense last year at Georgia. I mean, Kirby Smart loves to run the ball more than the Titans do. If you gave Kirby Smart Derrick Henry, they're going to start wars in the South. And I think that when you look at what the Titans want to do, Isaiah Wilson fits right in. I just worry that we've seen so many times running backs who get, I think it's 370 carries in a year is the Football Outsiders number. Running backs who log that many carries tend to regress from an injury standpoint. And if Derrick Henry regresses, Ryan Tannehill is going to regress. Yeah. And if that Titans offense regresses with no DPs on defense, then there's some potential serious fallbacks for him. But you look around the division, like I think the Colts are better with my boy Phil Rivers, but Jacksonville is a hot mess, and Houston. I mean, Billy O'Brien is doing some interesting things.
Oh man, Deshaun Watson. I think he might want out, but I heard they're talking extension. We'll see what happens with that. Will Brinson joining the podcast today. He's from CBS Sports. Also does the Pick Six podcast. You can chat into the show, so feel free to do that on Twitter, on Facebook. Get some people checking in. Boston native living in Raleigh. People saying, "What's up to you, Will?" Now,
what's up?
So what's your story? Like, obviously, I've known you at CBS Sports. You've been a regular here in Boston for a while, but like, you're out in North Carolina. Okay,
Raleigh. We're the guy.
No shit.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm not good with.
We all have quarantine brain, Joe. It's fine.
Geography wasn't my thing. But like, you're from that area. You grew up there. Like, tell us about your story. How did you like get into how'd you get to CBS Sports, and how'd you get into this crazy biz?
All right, so I'll try and do the shorter version of it. But I'm from North Carolina. My parents live like an hour and a half west of here. In High Point, and I went to NC State in Raleigh. I just lived in different spots in North Carolina, but basically lived here my whole life. I was terrible at college. I'm very bad at school, and so I was finishing up college at UNC Greensboro. In the we don't need to get into the specific years and timelines of this, but I was finishing school. I was working for my dad's law firm. And as a paralegal, certified paralegal.
Holy shit!
And I started writing on the side for this website run by Matthew Berry of ESPN called thetalentedmrroto.com.
Oh,
I was writing on them. This is dead ass serious. I was writing on the message boards, doing fantasy football work, just answering fantasy questions on the message boards. Got noticed. They gave me a column on the site, and then that's literally my first writing job. I would get $25 a month. $25 a month to write for Matt Berry. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just like it was the halcyon days of the internet, and always an English major, always written my whole life. And so doing that and writing for him, Matthew gets the job at ESPN. I'm not exactly sure what year it was. Some people from the site went to ESPN. A couple more were hired by Jamie Mottram at AOL's Fan House, and I started doing fantasy football and NBA coverage at Fan House, and you can't even find the old article. It was like, this is before the internet was big. Like Deadspin was around, of course, and you had blogs that were coming up, but like you could write a story for Fan House, and it would immediately be there. Like we were doing SEO before anybody else. Like you could write a story about a subject and it would be the top story on Google. And like now, if you write a story about, you're just rolling the dice now and just hope that a story pops up there. And so I worked for Fan House for 4 or 5 years, something like that. And then in fact, 10 years ago, because July will be my 10 years at CBS. I got Matt Moore, my good friend, who's at Hardwood Paroxysm. He and Lift Shats, I think, beefed on Twitter once.
Yep.
Matt, and Zach Harper put together a presentation. They met my boss Eric Kay at CBS at a convention in Chicago, Blogs with Balls, and we put together a PowerPoint on how we could create like a network of younger writers at CBS. EK bought in, so I went to a boss, hired Matt, and Matt recommended me for the job, and I got a job in July of 2010.
Damn.
And so this is why people are like, what is your advice for like getting in sports? I'm like, get the job and hold on to it for dear life.
Yeah.
This is like that's and just but I think you see the radio a lot is if you have to be willing to do. I don't think anybody should be willing to work for nothing, but you have to be willing to like take a job that might not be your ideal position, your preferred position, and you just have to grind. And if you show that you can be valuable in a certain area, you're going to be given. It's like any job; you're going to be given other opportunities. Like they gave you guys a podcast. You know, like you guys. It's not like you guys were like sauntered into 98.5, you're like, give us our podcast now, right? I mean, like, you guys were doing the betting thing on the side and talking about it, and they liked it, and they gave you guys an additional, like, that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to take an opportunity and leap on it.
Exactly. Hey, we did a podcast about gambling, which wasn't big. It's not legal here. And now DraftKings sponsors us.
Right.
Yet it's not legal in Massachusetts. It's legal in New Hampshire, which our signal reaches out to. So DraftKings is like, hey.
Well, and oh yeah, right. DraftKings has to be like, they're like, all right, they're like on the state line, like checking it out. Like,
but literally though, they use by the code, like, so it's like, drive to New Hampshire and use the app. But you're right, dude.
So you can do, like, how far is it from your place?
You can get from, so we're just out, we're like in downtown Boston.
Yeah.
So you can get to New Hampshire in 25 minutes.
What?
Yeah, you can get to Rhode Island in 35 minutes.
What?
Right, dude, you got to come to Boston sometime.
I haven't been to Boston in a long time. The last time I was in Boston was I went and saw fish at Fenway Park.
Oh, so you're a fish head?
Huge fish head.
Oh my God.
People are A, disturbed by it, and B, like, oh no, because Toucher and Rich hate it. Because I was tweeting about it. Like, haven't we suffered enough?
Yeah.
Like, haven't we suffered enough?
I'd at least smoke with you, but like I'm out on the fucking like the music. I'm out on.
That's fine. That's fine. But like my parents are very close to us geographically, and my in-laws are very close to us geographically, like more so than like a lot of people I know, and they're an hour and a half away. Like this is how North Carolina works. Like it's just so horizontal. So I'm just not used to the geography of like peeling out of the city and being in Rhode Island in 25 minutes.
Yeah, but it's funny, like the New England Patriots, yes, they are Rhode Island and all the states in New England, but like
they're Boston.
They're 25 miles from downtown Boston though. Like it's not an easy ride, and like it's like the stadium's nice, but one of the worst to get in and out of. But it's funny story. So how I started, I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting. You'll probably hear the ads like, oh, go here. John Anik was my teacher, and I didn't know it. We were shooting the shit outside. He was a program director at some station. Now he's the play-by-play announcer for UFC. Like, and we meet all these connections over the years, and like, dude, I wanted to be in radio so bad. I worked at a financial radio station. I was selling ads, and the guy goes, "Hey, why don't you come work for me? I got a full-time job," and boom, kept on going from there. But like, it's not easy.
It's what you have to do. I mean, like, you just don't. I mean, like, it's easy. And like you sit, like I explained like the steps of like how I got my job, and like obviously there's a lot in between. Like, it's just as simple as like, oh, I started writing like there's a lot that goes in between, and there's inherently going to be some self-doubt, throughout the entire process. Like, that's just how it works. But yeah, I mean, like, you just have to have like the mentality that like, you have to know that you have to believe that you can execute if you have the opportunity to do so, and then work your way into a position where you are given that opportunity. That is ultimately, like, I think the explanation is what it is.
I have two questions. So you quit working in law to do this full time?
Well, I wasn't a lawyer. I was in
the office.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to call myself a secretary, but like somebody might,
You're like, hey, so I'm going to just like start doing this thing called fantasy football. So like, see you later. They probably looked at you like, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, I told my dad, he's like, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. we joke about that all the time. He's like, I wouldn't quit your day job, pal. He's like, I'm paying you. I wouldn't quit your day job. I was like, I really think I can work, Dad. But I went and worked for there's like a travel related website in Winston-Salem here. It was based out of there, and I left the law job for that and was doing. I mean, like, this is like there have been very few stretches over the last 10 years where I haven't had multiple jobs. Like, whether it's like a small freelance gig, and this is sort of part of the business, like if you're in this business, you probably have some side hustle. Everybody's got some kind of side hustle. It's
all fun and games until you got to pay your bills. Just real quick, you mentioned the fantasy side of things. I've been doing sports gambling shows for at least 5-6 years now. Sometimes it's like, it's sports gambling, and like then there are other listeners that are like, I don't gamble. So like my approach has been to like talk about the games on using a betting perspective. So you did fantasy for years. Obviously, you've dabbled into the gambling side. does it ever, like, for me, it gets in the way. Like, I hate fantasy football. I like the daily fantasy. I hate regular fantasy. But, like, does the gambling side of it and the fantasy side ever kind of get in between for you?
You mean like
what I mean is this. Okay, so this week I want to play Lamar Jackson, but I have them, not covering the spread against the Patriots this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, part of my process for, like, betting and fantasy is that I have so, like, with fantasy, I have a shit ton of leagues. Like, I mean, it's like, I don't know, 15 leagues or something like that, which I think is a lot. Like, I've tried to pare it down. And in every year I try to pare it down. Every year it just doesn't happen. I'm like, somebody's like, "You want to join this league?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And so I sort of take a very, like, spreadsheet type of approach to lineups at this point. Like, I think I basically numb the setting lineups. Like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like it's a business like approach to set. Like, I'm like, all right, this is the best option. Like, I don't even worry about it. Does that make sense? Like, like it's. I mean, like, I'm just not, like, even drafts, like, because I do, like, I think I'm doing one right now. We do all these mock drafts with Jamie Eisenberg and Dave Richard and the fantasy guys, and so it's like almost like the emotion that comes into setting a lineup or doing a draft has been lost at this point. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, Dave Richard, a regular on.
Yeah, Dave's always on. Yeah.
He does good stuff. All right, so let's get into the good stuff here. A bunch of quarterbacks went off the board. Were you surprised it was Tua first and then Herbert? And then were you surprised the Patriots didn't select a quarterback in the draft?
So on Tua, no. I was dead right on Tua the whole time. I said that the Dolphins were full of shit and they were smoke screening, and that all this stuff, you read these Miami writers, and it was like they're like, "Oh, Tua's their fourth guy, their fourth best quarterback." It's like, no, that's not true. They've been studying this guy for 18 months. So unless he, like, lost a leg or, like, is a secret serial killer, they weren't going to just completely get off of Tua, and they didn't. Give him credit. The smokescreen worked because they got him at 5. I don't know that. I don't think that necessarily that what they did is what caused him to fall to 5. I think the economics of how things set up and the situation with Corona and, like, teams not, like, I just think the way that everything played out and Tua's injury, teams not being able to check him out, like, I don't think the Dolphins caused him to fall to 5, but they got him at 5, and that's all that matters. I was a little surprised that the Chargers took Herbert. I probably shouldn't have been. I probably psyched myself out of that one. Through depth chart, it was pretty obvious that they had to take a quarterback. You just can't go to the season with freaking Tyrod Taylor and Easton Stick. I mean, it ain't gonna. And I believe they like Tyrod Taylor, and I think that Anthony Lynn said, "I want to win with Tyrod," and Tom Telesco is giving him an opportunity to do so. I think if they lose, the Tyrod thing goes real south for them in 2020, you could look at their draft and you could see maybe sort of a roster reset here, where if they don't have a good year, I mean, Joey Bosa is due for a contract. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams in the final year of the deal. Hunter Henry is on the franchise tag. Like, this is not – it's a team that needs to win now. And that's sort of why I thought they might go defensive player and just try to double down on Tyrod and hope that the defense wins this year. The Patriots – I thought I mentioned, like, Bill Belichick, when he does his kitchen setup, he's doing it on purpose. Well, Bill Belichick doesn't do anything by accident. I mean, Patriots fans should know that at this point. I think trading out of 23, which is something they've done frequently, trading out of the first round. Trading out of 23 is a message. It should be a very, very clear message that we like Jarrett Stidham. They didn't take a quarterback in the whole draft, and they traded out of the spot where Jordan Love was available and traded down. Like, they would rather have the 37 and 71 than Jordan Love. That should tell you, A, how Bill Belichick viewed this draft class, and B, how the Patriots feel about Jarrett Stidham. I just think he believes he can win with this guy.
So my only beef is they took Duggar, and the thing with him is
Ryan. Hey, that's an hour. I used to drive past Hickory's like 45 minutes from my parents' house.
All right, so do they play anybody competitive? Because what concerns me is well, just real quick though, the Patriots have selected defensive backs in the second round, and it just hasn't worked out. The Razai Dowlings of the world, like Duke Dawson, a couple of years ago, never even dressed for them. So just selecting a defensive back in the second round. But another thing is, hey, I'm going to take a kid from D2 who, by the way, got injured and looked bored at times because he was so good. They know stuff that we don't, whatever, and he'll probably be a Patrick Chung replacement when it's all said and done. But every year, you're like, go get Murray, go get Queen, go get this guy, and it's some dude that we didn't even have on the board. Like they drafted a kicker later on, and I'm like, I find out the kid is from Rhode Island at one point. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden we hear about his off-field shit. But it's like, how do they, like, I just don't understand. It's like, I love the draft, but then they go after people. I don't know who the hell it is or if they're on anyone's board. But I at least thought that with the wide receivers that were out there that they didn't draft one or a quarterback. Like you mentioned the quarterback thing. Like I get it, they want to go at Stidham, but a wide receiver, dude, there were like 60 quality receivers this year in the draft.
It's like your buddy who like constantly mentions hipster bands. And you're like, I get it. I get it. You like music that isn't popular. It's like Belichick's like, I'm gonna draft Kyle Duggar first. Like I'll show these guys. My dog is gonna draft an obscure Division II defensive back like with our first pick after trading down. It's like could not be more on brand than drafting Kyle Duggar after trading out of the first round. With your dog at this like kitchen table where you look like you'd be playing bridge or spades or something like that. I mean, it is absolutely perfect Patriots. I mean, I think, the interesting thing about the Pats, and nobody's questioning Bill Belichick here, but the drafts haven't been that great lately. Like they haven't done, and I will say this too, like, if you look back at, and I think the similarity has been drawn, maybe it's 10 years, because it's 10 years, but like after 2009, Belichick has, he said publicly that he's like, I just can't get the team there in 2009. And he had to really reboot everything with the culture and the locker room changes. And they did that ironically in 2010 when they drafted Gronk and then Aaron Hernandez. But it feels a little bit like that in that, Brady is gone. This is supposed to be we're talking about all weekend long. It's symbolically the first post-Brady draft. Like, what is Belichick going to do to shift the paradigm? And in a Brady-less world, it's like, oh, he's going to draft Kyle Duggar. It just feels like he is. It really just feels like a message was sent. Like, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick was sending a message because he's Bill Belichick. But it feels like he wanted to retool this roster in leadership and culture kind of way and pass the baton from the McCourties and the Patrick Chungs and the Stephon Gilmores, these guys who make up the foundation of everything. Like he has to find a new leadership core because the Brady is gone and the veterans are getting older. So I think it is interesting how this draft impacts sort of the Patriot way, so to speak.
Yeah, you're right. They have not drafted an All-Pro in years. Literally, I mean, I know Jamie.
Well, no. It's a Pro Bowl because Joe Tooney was second team All-Pro last year. But I know. Tooney was first of all, Tooney was a great draft pick.
Tooney didn't give up a sack. I don't think his senior year, right at NC State.
My man, Tooney, Tooney's a stud, but. I mean, like whatever the stat is, they haven't drafted a Pro Bowler since like 2013 or something like that. I mean, that's a testament to how good Belichick is. That they've been still good despite not having tons of success in the draft.
All right, I got to ask you about Cam Newton. I saw the odds yesterday of where Cam Newton will end up, and the favorite is New England. I personally think they could bring in anybody. Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, you name it, make him a Pro Bowler. Andy Dalton, for that matter.
Sure.
What happened with Newton there? Obviously, was it just the injuries in the end? Was it just Matt Rule came in and wanted to go with Bridgewater? I mean, do you think this is a guy that could still be effective in the NFL?
Yeah. So I mean, what happened with Cam is based, in my opinion, and I said this before the 2019 season. I told anybody who'd listen. I said, look, if the Panthers are not good in 2019, then David Tepper is going to hit the reset button. And he did that. I mean, they got Greg Olsen, Luke Kuechly, and Luke Kuechly retired. But there was, I think there was some intimation from the franchise as well that like, hey, we are sort of hitting a roster reset here. Greg Olsen, was mutually parted ways, and then later came out was like, he more or less said, I got told to take a hike. Cam came out publicly, kept trying to he kept trying to do these publicly. He's like, I'm absolutely starting next year. He's like, no, there's no chance it's happening. Marty Herney is still there and ran the draft So unless a surprising move from the Panthers happens, he'll be the survivor in terms of this reset. But like they basically wanted to reboot, and Tepper, look, that's his prerogative. He paid $2 billion for a football team. You pay $2 billion for anything, you can do what you want with that thing, right? Yeah. And I think he had spent the first 2 years of his tenure really on the business side of things and sort of developing things in Charlotte and bringing a Major League Soccer team and talking about renovations for the stadium. And he split the team into two in terms of how he wanted to focus on it. And he worked on the business side first, and now he's sort of been messing around on the football side. And I think ultimately that they just felt as if Cam was not going to play for the Panthers in 2020 without some sort of contract extension is my belief. And the Panthers did not want to give him a contract extension because of the health risk. And they wanted to sort of shift how who the face of the franchise is. And they've done that. And it's a little Belichickian in the sense that there isn't necessarily a face. Like it's a Matt Rule team. Like it's more of a program is what I think they want to do. Christian McCaffrey, I guess, would be the guy since they get him the extension. But yeah, I think Cam's got something left in the tank. If you go watch the early part of 2018. I mean, that dude was playing really well, like MVP level well in Norv Turner's offense. When last year when he played early on, it wasn't the shoulder. It never was the shoulder. It's all about the foot. And these Lisfranc injuries can linger for a long time. Yeah. Brady Quinn said on my podcast that he had a Lisfranc injury in the NFL and he didn't get it surgically repaired. He says it's the biggest mistake of his career because if you go back to anything, he would do that. And so Cam had that done, but like it's just hard to know exactly where he's at with that foot injury without your doctors looking at him. I do think the thing with the Patriots that people aren't talking about enough is so today was Monday the 28th or Monday the 27th. Today's the compensatory pick formula deadline. That matters to Bill Belichick a ton. If you sign somebody after today, a quarterback after today, he doesn't count against your compensatory pick formula. That is a big deal for Bill Belichick.
Oh, that is a huge Belichick move. There you go.
So I think he looked at Jameis, Cam, and Andy Dalton as well. Because I think Andy Dalton will be released by the Bengals. I don't think you can keep Andy Dalton there after you draft Joe Burrow. It's just my take. I think he saw that and realized, okay, if we want to sign a veteran, we can wait until after the draft to do it. Because A, that deadline, B, because just the economics of where the market is from a saturation standpoint. And that gives us better leverage in the draft and in free agency.
Yeah. I just wonder if the off-field stuff or like the post-game stuff with Cam.
I think that's overblown. Okay. Cam steps in it. And people just Cam is like the perfect storm of hot takery because he's a black quarterback who played at Auburn, so like Alabama fans, like a bunch of like white Alabama fans really don't like Cam Newton, and there's a bunch of bandwagon or otherwise, and he has not always been perfect passing. He's not a traditional quarterback. He runs the ball. He is outspoken about a lot of different things. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I mean, he is really just the perfect storm of a lightning rod for takes in the NFL.
Totally agree with that. And in a way, I feel like that's not what they would like, but
but now they signed Tim Tebow at one point.
It's true. they brought in Tim Tebow. They brought him in. Listen,
I think that was throwing a bone for Urban Meyer or somebody. I think it was a favor.
Not to mention a player was, I don't know, in jail at the time. They needed a little heat off of it, so why not bring in his roommate?
Does anybody want to do a Tebow press conference? Anybody want a Tebow press conference?
Literally, that's what happened then. Just sticking with the AFC East, I have two questions. Who's the best quarterback in the AFC East, in your opinion? And second, I have this feeling when I bet on teams, right? When everybody's on one team, like Buffalo, everyone's going to be on Buffalo this year. And you know what? They had a hell of a draft, and they get Jake Fromm. Okay, I think at some point, not a hot take, I think Jake Fromm will be the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills at some point. So
Chris Trapasso, who is one of our draft guys at CBS, and lives in Buffalo and is a Bills fan. It was on my pod on Sunday's episode, I think. And he had I had not thought of that. I think it's a very unique and interesting take. So Josh Allen, because to me, I said, why do you want Jake Fromm as your backup when you have Josh Allen? It's like oil and water, lightning and thunder. Makes no sense. He's like, well, Josh Allen apparently has come out and said that he loves having Matt Barkley as his backup because the things that Josh Allen is strong as hell, as a monster cannon arm, obviously, isn't great at reading defenses and isn't accurate. Well, you know what Jake Fromm and Matt Barkley are? They're very accurate and great at reading defenses because they're not strong enough to win just on their arm strength. And apparently Josh Allen, by spending time with smarter quarterbacks who are accurate, learns a lot from those guys. And so I think that might be the theory on Fromm is, okay, we use it. First of all, late round pick on him. Second of all, he's going to come in here. He is in no way a challenge, a challenge to Josh Allen in terms of, walking in day one and there's no competition. Everybody knows that. But what Jake Fromm does really well in terms of how he studies and how he learns and how he plays could potentially rub off on Josh Allen. Now, will that actually work out? I don't know. But I think it's an interesting theory. To your question, sorry for the tangent, but to your question on the quarterbacks, I would go Darnold, Allen, Tua, Stidham. With Tua and Stidham being 3 and 4, mainly because we don't know right now. One's a rookie and one's sort of an unknown. I think Sam Darnold is way better than people give credit for. If Josh Allen, if he takes a leap, the Bills can win the Super Bowl. If he doesn't take a step forward, the Bills could finish 7-9.
There you go. You got a new segment for your podcast this week. Who's got the best quarterback in the AFC? All right. So moving on here, Jameis Winston. Has he officially signed with the Saints yet? Because when I heard it yesterday, I'm like, you know what? This is a damn good move for Winston and the Saints. Buy a year, see what happens with Breeze. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it. I think it's a great move for Jameis Winston. The logic behind it, if you think about it, if you're Jameis, Teddy Bridgewater had to play and win 5 games last year, but by virtue of going and playing for Sean Payton, even if you leave after 1 year and go back out and check out the quarterback market, which should be better than it was this past. Jameis just got he got hosed. Like Tom Brady came to Tampa, and so there's nowhere for Jameis. There's no room at the table. But if you get a public recommendation from Sean Payton at some point over the next year, then it's very good for your free agency chances. We saw that with Teddy Bridgewater. He went out and got a $60 million deal from the Panthers because he played well for New Orleans. But he worked with Joe Brady, who's now in Carolina. But working for Sean Payton has its benefits in terms of people thinking, oh, if Sean Payton likes him, then maybe we should be willing to take a look a little bit further. And worst case scenario, you go there, Sean Payton loves you, and Drew Brees retires, and you take over the Saints.
Yep, and who knows? Breeze already signed that deal with Notre Dame to do television.
Yeah, the NBC. It's not a his deal is a 2-year deal with the Saints, but it's a 1 year plus a dummy year, and his deal with NBC is, I think Andrew Martian reported, is just when he retires. So if he retires, it doesn't matter when it happens. When he retires, he works for him.
Yep, and I just think it's a good fit for him. Maybe learn under one of the greatest for a year and. Exactly. Maybe that mold that Teddy Bridgewater did last year with the Saints. The Eagles had an interesting draft. They needed a wide receiver. They get him, but they draft Jalen Hertz. And I look at it as a kind of a good move. I think it's a little bit of a reach, second round.
Yeah.
But you can't go with Tim McCown again in a playoff game if you get there. Josh, he said we have a guy named Tim McCown. We have a guy named Tim McCown at our station, so we just call him McCown now. It's like the on-running joke at our station, but
that's why I don't get why are Eagles fans mad about this. You had Josh McCown starting a playoff, or not starting, but playing in a playoff game after Cloudy knocks out Wentz. Nick Foles has a statue in front of the stadium because he was the backup who led you to a Super Bowl title. Why are you big mad about Howie Roseman drafting a backup quarterback? The only reason that you guys have anything to flex about is because Howie Roseman paid a backup quarterback. People are like, that's not the same thing. It's $11 million for Nick Foles over 2 years is basically the same thing as the 53rd overall pick or whatever it was that Hertz was taken. Like, I get it. You wanted 2 receivers, and I get it. Denzel Mims is there. Sure, he would have been a nice addition. Do I think Jalen Hertz is going to start a lot of games for the Eagles? No, probably not. But I do know that the Eagles have damn sure needed a backup quarterback multiple times over the past 3 years, and Howie Roseman has made it abundantly clear through his actions repeatedly over the past 5 years that he's heavily invest in the depth chart at quarterback, even beyond the starter.
My apologies to Josh McCown, who I
Charlotte high school football coach.
Really? Oh, wow.
He was doing that last year. He was flying. That's right. He's flying from Charlotte every weekend to Philly to play football as his part of his second job. Like, are you sure you don't want a backup quarterback with a little bit more concrete, ability?
Yeah, buddy, I actually bet them last year, and I tried. They were close.
They should have beaten the Seahawks.
Definitely, I completely agree with that, and I always love to take the underdogs.
Is there anything worse than backing a home playoff dog who you're very confident in, and then seeing their quarterback knocked out of the game in like the first 20 minutes or whatever? I mean, you're like, well, this bet's dead.
That happened in Texas. Was it Colt McCoy that got knocked out?
Against Alabama?
Oh yeah, I was like, I kind of feel that didn't.
Oh, was that Garrett? Is it Garrett?
Garrett Gilbert.
Garrett Gilbert came in. Yeah, that's right.
That played at SMU and was a former Patriot at one point.
That's right.
As well. So Gronk and Brady, I call them the Tampa 2. I'm trying to get it copyrighted. It's not going to work. But your thoughts?
That's good.
I mean, Brady's trying to copyright everything now. He's got all this merch.
You should make a shirt or tell. So Jamie Mottram, the guy who hired me at Fan House, is now at Breaking Tea. Actually, I'm wearing a Breaking Tea shirt right now. It's the Pete Carroll pimp. Remember the gif of Pete Carroll walking as a pimp? I have that is this on a shirt.
That's actually funny. So obviously here in New England, like there was the Parcells, to Pete Carroll to Belichick era, and Pete Carroll he had success in New England, not compared to Parcells or Belichick, but like those days, people hate Pete Carroll for those days. But if you think about it, like we have Ted Johnson on at our station, 3-time champ. Those were his 3 coaches for his whole career, and they're all going to be Hall of Famers someday.
That's crazy.
But Pete, still a soft spot.
Pete Carroll gets a bad rap for his New England run, I think. I mean, it's like A, compared to Belichick. B, he was great at USC. And like he won a division title. I mean, it's hard to win in the NFL. He learned a bunch of stuff at USC, how to properly manage the salary cap, and he applied it to the NFL.
I still won't get over the 7-6 playoff loss to the Steelers in the 90s, but we'll get over that one. But your thoughts on Brady going to Tampa Bay and now Gronk coming out of retirement?
Yeah, I mean, for Brady, the thing is, it feels like I still firmly believe that Belichick told him no. Like I know that it's been spun in a direction where people are like, Tom chose to go to Tampa Bay. Like he's got his freedom finally, and he's going. I don't buy it. If Belichick wanted Tom Brady playing for the Pats, Tom Brady would be playing for the Pats this year. Like I believe that, and I think Belichick was given like it to me. It was very clear, like the way that the things that Robert Kraft has said, and the way that this thing unfolded, that it was Bill's decision on Tom Brady, and Bill is Bill Belichick, and he ultimately was not going. He believes that Tom Brady's been. He believes that it's been a year. The axiom is like get rid of guys a year early rather than a year late. He believes it's been a year early for like 5 years, and he's playing with house money, and that the way that Brady played this late in his career was just an aberration. It does not happen on a regular basis, and at some point the check was going to come due. Bill did not want to be holding the bill when that check was due, and decided to move on and just believed it was time. It worked out well because Tampa Bay is a perfect landing spot for Brady. The Buccaneers seemed like a weird fit at first, but when you start to think about Bruce Arians, and I think when you look at what Tom Brady has done in his professional career outside of football, like so he has the Uggs deal, he has the Under Armour deal. He didn't take a bunch of cash and just shill for these companies, like as like somebody doing a plug-in a product or whatever. He was an invested partner in these companies that he took money from. And I think he wanted to have that same collaborative approach to his next football team. And Bruce Arians was absolutely willing to do it with him. I think Jason Light as well, the GM, I'm not saying they're like letting Tom Brady pick players, but I certainly think that that they want to work with Tom to develop an organizational approach to how to win football games. I think they're going to be really good. I think they'll win I think they're going to win the division.
I do too.
I mean, like Mike, I tell you talk about like getting away from teams that everybody's on. That's my only issue. Is like everybody's going to be on the Buccaneers. Right. So there's definitely some value in the Saints, or like minus 120 to win the division. Which, given this particular offseason, to me, I'll say this: going for 2020 win totals, and the schedule will be out May 8th or whatever. When those win totals come out, I think people who are betting on sports, football win total bettors should heavily lean on teams that have consistency at offensive line, quarterback, offensive coordinator, and head coach from a year-to-year basis, because they're not going to be off-season training activities more than likely. And if they are, they're going to be different or virtual or weird. And teams that are not learning new systems and not forced to integrate new personnel are going to be substantially ahead of the curve of those other teams.
Pittsburgh's one team I'm going over on. They have an easy schedule. The Ravens and
is Dan off Pittsburgh this year?
I know, because last year he was.
No, because he was giving me shit endlessly for I was all over the Steelers. And he's like, "You're dead wrong." You guys talking about it on the podcast. I mean, you mentioned me on the podcast talking about it because I remember listening to it. And I didn't get off the Steelers, but I was giving him shit back about the Browns because he was all over the Browns.
The Browns.
So like, I think it washed out in terms of like I was more right about the Steelers than he was right about the Browns, because the Steelers at least had a playoff run over Hodges.
If you listen to us, there's certain things when Dan is like really hot on something, like Pittsburgh sucks, like, okay, we'll go with it. But he loved the Browns. He also thought Pat Mahomes was going to be a bust. But the next year he took Lamar Jackson to win the MVP.
That's right. I had Darnold and Dak and Cousins for MVP, and the one guy I looked at that I was thinking about splashing on was Lamar, and I didn't do it, and it is a highly regrettable decision.
And my big thing is whenever I see a square play like Texas -1 versus like SMU, I'm like, oh, this looks Texas. And I have to be talked out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
right. College basketball was really bad for that until it stopped being played. But like, because it was such a weird season, there was no like top heavy teams, so it'd be like. It was like Rutgers -1 at Penn State. It's like, okay, that's such a effed up line. Like, you just have to hammer Rutgers. Because like Penn State's ranked like 23rd or something like that. It's like everybody is going to be on the Penn State as a slight dog at home.
That's my thing. I look at that small line and I'm like, this looks great. I need to be talked out.
No, we were doing that with our friends. We were like, okay, let's bring up the board each day in college basketball. It's like there was one. It was like. Oh, it's Virginia at Purdue. Yep. And Virginia's minus. We're like,
Purdue rolled them. Yep.
Killed them. Yeah, we're like, okay, what is the obvious play here? We're like, it's Virginia. We're like, let's take Purdue.
Exactly. And Big Ten home teams last year absolutely dominated. All right, let's have some fun, Will. We've been doing I do a segment on my show called Murray's Musings, so we'll do some musings here, and then we'll get you out of here with some fun stuff. So the Jordan documentary is out. I know you haven't had a chance to watch it. You got to hear the Rodman stories, but one of them was he needed some time off, and they said 48 hours. It was more than 48 hours, and they hear a knock on the door. It's Michael Jordan at the door in Vegas, and they got to get Rodman back. And Carmen Electra is in the room with Dennis Rodman, and she does the documentary last night. Dude, I think she looks better now than when she did 25 years ago. And I think back to it, like Jenny McCarthy, Carmen Electra, like
Ann Anderson. Oh yeah,
exactly. But like, dude, she looks better now than she did 20 years ago. You got to see it. It was.
And I would never disparage Jenny McCarthy, because like I couldn't handle. Although I think she married to like one of the
Wahlberg, Donnie, yeah.
I've seen him at the Super Bowl. They're like she doesn't look better. So I mean, like I don't want to. Like she was an icon of the '90s, the host of Singled Out,
1994 Playmate of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, like I was born in '81. I'm an adult male. Like Jenny McCarthy was one of the poster ladies. But it's impressive that Carmen Electra looks better.
You got to see it. It's good stuff. Also, Phil Jackson did acid. I didn't know that.
That's incredible.
It must have.
It makes sense. It checks out there.
And he liked Indians, so I don't know if like he was a Doors fan and like Jim Morrison or whatever. But speaking of that, Post Malone, I don't know if you had a chance to see this. He did a special this week with Travis Barker. They did all Nirvana covers. So yeah,
Oh.
I was born in '82.
I don't like Post Malone, but I'll check that out.
But me, same thing. I'm changed. I'm a changed man.
Really?
Well, yeah. So I grew up in '80. I was born in '82. So we're about the same age. But like that grunge era, man.
Yeah.
Alice in Chains is my favorite band of all time. But Post Malone did it justice.
I saw Soundgarden in 95, 96 maybe. Soundgarden and this little band. Wait, who was opening for Soundgarden? It wasn't. Crap, I got to think about this. But it was at the Phillips Arena in Atlanta. So,
wow. Yeah, I've seen Chris Cornell is one of the best singers I've ever seen live. And poor Jay Cutler. Remember he turned down that job to play-by-play. Poor him and Cavalieri getting a divorce.
And quarantine, man. We're gonna see people with kids, couples with kids. The divorce rate is gonna spike, and couples without kids, the baby rate is gonna spike.
That's right.
It's like the people with kids are in like my brother's 3 years younger than me, lives in downtown Raleigh here. My mom is like she's like, I'm worried, and she's like, I'm calling Charlie. I'm worried about Charlie. I'm like, yeah, you're worried about the wrong brother. Like he's single and lives by himself downtown. Like, you know what? You know who's having fun right now? Charlie. He's playing video games when he's not working. And I'm over here like dealing with a 6-year-old. Like you don't even need to call and check on me.
It's true, and I agree with that. I'd go nuts if I was stuck with a kid all day. All right, quarantine. This is what we do here. What shows are you watching currently during quarantine?
Well, so I know you don't like Fish or probably Widespread Panic, but I will say that it has been very enjoyable for me that both those bands. So like Widespread, every Sunday night they on the YouTube channel they throw up an old show on Sunday night from like way back in the day, and Fish does Tuesday night. So we've been streaming those. That's been kind of enjoyable. For like some weeknight diversions. Better Call Saul. I'm not caught up on Better Call Saul.
Oh, so good.
And the reason why, and I actually think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad, but we don't have time for that. The reason why I haven't watched the Jordan documentary is I canceled DirecTV and actually just can't. I had YouTube TV, but then canceled it too because there's no sports on. So like I don't have any cable or anything, and I don't know how to watch it. Which is I don't know how I don't have cable. This has never happened to me in my entire life, like 38, 39 years. It's never happened. But Narcos Mexico is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching a bunch of Arrested Development. My wife and I went back through and watched The Office again. Let's see, what else have I been watching? Oh, Ozark season 3 was incredible.
Are you a wrestling fan at all?
No, I was growing up, but I'm not. I don't mean it in a disparaging way. I'm just not. I never got back into it.
Oh, I love it. Dark Side of the Ring. If you ever get a chance, Viceland. If you can figure it out on your.
Is it like the evil, like the Is it like exposing the OC?
Yeah, exactly. It's exposed like Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, maybe.
Is it like 90s stuff?
Oh yeah, it's got like the Von Erichs, maybe you remember from the 80s.
Yeah.
They just did one from what was it called?
Oh, it's like a series.
Yeah, it's a series, and Chris Jericho runs it. It's awesome. Okay. They did the Benoit story, if you remember that.
I was huge into wrestling in in the Hulk Warrior, Jake the Snake days. All those guys, but I just never. I think. Did you ever get out of wrestling?
Yeah. In the 2000s, I missed it.
Everybody bailed. Everybody our age was in. I mean, you were in on wrestling as a kid.
Monday Night Wars, man. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And paying $40, mom and dad, we have to get WrestleMania.
Yes.
I don't care what I get. Take my allowance for a year. We will get WrestleMania. Yeah. And then everybody got out in the 2000s. And so you either got back in or didn't. I don't think there's anybody who's halfway into wrestling. You know what I mean? You're either in on wrestling, you guys are. I mean,
dude, we have a crew. We have a crew of dudes. We go 10 deep, man.
Yeah, but I'm just out. I just never got back in. So it's I don't know. And now I think the ship has sailed until I would bet that in 4 years though, assuming that wrestling is still going and Vince McMahon somehow didn't go bankrupt over this quarantine thing. The XFL just went from we're robust and everything's going great to we are being sued for bank. I would bet that when my son gets to be about 10, that we start to get back into it because I showed him, what was it? We recorded something the other day that was wrestling and he saw it. He was like, oh my God. Oh no, it was, there was some wrestling event was it an old WrestleMania? I can't remember what. Anyway, he watched like a match, and he was like,
"That's probably on ESPN or whatever."
Yeah, he's like, "That was awesome." So I would bet that I will bet that I will get suckered back in at some point in the next 2 years.
WWE Network, you'll get lost for days. Favorite snack, man? What's something you snack on during quarantine?
Cheez-Its. I mean, I have a constantly updated power ranking of Cheez-Its flavors. 1 is hot and spicy, 2 pepper jack. This is just current. This is not permanent.
No.
3 regular, 4 extra toasty, and 4 is the Cool Ranch grooves.
What about the cheddar kind?
The white cheddar? Yeah, people ask.
White cheddar. Yeah.
I like the white cheddar. It's just not in the top 5 right now.
Okay. All right. And then 2 more. What will be the first song you play when you get to a bar and you can hit up the jukebox with the first song? What will it be?
That's a good question. I'll say that's a very good question.
You can think about that. And I'll ask you.
I'll say "Naive Melody" by the Talking Heads.
Boom! Oh, good song.
Great song.
In on that one. And then last one here. Favorite sports movie.
Favorite sports movie. I feel like sports movies kind of suck for the most part. Like
really,
I like them. I just feel like it's not an elevated genre. Like there's not like like Rudy sucks.
Rudy does suck.
I'll say, does Jerry Maguire count as a sports movie? Adam Age.
Mine's 8 Men Out. I was a big fan of 8 Men Out about the White Sox scandal. But I loved Varsity Blues.
I'll say, you know what doesn't get mentioned as a sports movie somehow? I'll say Field of Dreams.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't watched it forever. It's not It's not like bingeable. I love Varsity Blues. Like I think Varsity Blues is like, you kind of sound like a bag if you're like, Varsity Blues is a great sport, because it's not a great movie, but it's fun. And
if you were in high school at the time, like exactly. I was Billy Bob, and we had we had like the star quarterback who got hurt. We've been. I mean, like if you're our age, you spent a decent portion of your like high school life quoting Varsity Blues and Ace Ventura. It's like it's just. I mean, like it's just you can't. You like Jenny McCarthy. You listen to Nirvana and Alice in Chains. You watch Ace Ventura and Varsity Blues and you wrestling. Yeah, I mean, like that's just so. Yeah, like I'll probably go Varsity Blues or Field of Dreams. All right, he's Will. Will, tell everybody about the Pick Six podcast and where they can find you.
Yeah, a daily NFL podcast on CBS Sports. You can get on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you do it. We cover the NFL literally every day, even though the draft is over and there's nothing going on. We will be doing the podcast every day. We're doing NFC grades are up Monday, AFC grades on Tuesday, Pete Prisco on Wednesday, and you can check it out. And if you enjoy hearing me talk at all, then you will like this podcast because it's me every day.
Awesome. Well, you got a face for radio. You look good on the television. So, but dude, I do appreciate. When are you on Toucher and Rich this week? When can we hear you?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I just get a text, right? That's what I come in on Thursdays, but I don't know what time I'm on.
No. Dan just texts me. It's usually Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. I think. But Dan texts me, and I like talking to.
Dude, so Toucher and Rich, dude, like, all right, these dudes are like legendary, man. Like I like they do these awesome bits. They've never done anything to get you, but one time Dave Richard though, like they were like calling and asking Dave Richard about like about like certain guys, and they were just making up names at Dave. and it's just one day he's like, not sure I know that guy, you know what I mean?
But I'm hard to get because I don't like BS. Like if you ask me about somebody I don't know, I'm probably gonna be like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. That's better off to do though.
Right. And the funny part about Toucher Rich though is that I live in Raleigh, right? And famously around here, Fred called Chip Alexander a hick.
There you go.
And hung up on him. And so people are here like, you can't believe you go home with those guys. I'm like, oh, I like them. They're fun.
I was there that day, and I believe Fred has family in Raleigh or in North Carolina.
Yes, somewhere.
I think his in-laws or something.
It's Fred who's the hick.
Dude, I'm telling you though, like if those guys are like legend, like around the country, everyone knows who those guys are, man. But dude, I really appreciate the time today. It was fun shooting the shit with you. Like I said, we only get to talk every once in a while, but the Pick Six podcast, CBS Sports. He's Will Brinson. Will, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. Talk to you soon, pal.
You catch up down the line. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll wrap up the show. That was Will Brinson, CBS Sports. Fun times with him. Just wanted to kind of go over a few things that we get going on this week. We had Will today. We got Christian Arcand tomorrow, and then we'll have Adam Kaufman. I haven't talked to in a while. Love to shoot the shit with him coming up. Marshall Hook, he's from 98.5 The Sportsman. Andrew Raycroft, the Razor, joins us on Friday at noon. That should be a good show. So again, hanging out all week long. Feel free to chat in. You can find all our shows again, just sitting here on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes. And I'll post everything up so you have it today. Will was an awesome guest. Appreciate his time and appreciate everyone checking in, the support. We're on week 4 now of the show. So again, I'm going to start mixing up some stuff. We'll get over the draft. We'll start doing some, fun stuff when it comes down to it going forward here. And I've been watching some shows that I'd love to discuss, and music arguments and all that shit. So anyways, that's it for today. Going to do an hour and that's it. And then we'll back tomorrow with Christian Arcand. I'm Joe Murray, just sitting here. We'll talk to you then.